Well, hello and welcome to another Guns Contractors video. My name's Ollie Guns, and it's a response to a lot of you guys asking questions about Idig and how I use it and in a sort of practical application. And I've tried to do that with my other videos, particularly showing you, like, you know, a job and what I do in a particular job. But I'm just going to run through again some of the ways that I kind of go about starting a job. So you're joining me at Hampton Court. It's the day, in fact it's day zero really of build. I'm actually here a day early because our trees are coming in a day earlier, so they're coming in essentially on day one for everyone else of build. So we've been given special permission to start, and there is literally like nobody here. It's really quiet. They put some trackway down and stuff, so good time to film a video. It's middle of June, it's bloody hot, so you can enjoy my sec sebode for a bit, because it's absolutely roasting here, man. There's no shade. Anyway, this is the garden. I've set it out. We've set it out with some Taram. This is a garden for the RHS. It's not going to be judged, this particular one, unlike the one we did Chelsea recently. And this is it's for yeah, it's like a display basically on behalf of the RHS. So it doesn't matter. You've still got to do the right quality. That's what I'm all about. A lot of trees to go in here, not massive ones, but still a lot of trees. It's like a path that sort of wiggles through the middle, and a couple of seating areas. So various levels to set out. I've currently got an unlevel plot of grass, and I'm going to show you how I go about. I'm completely here on my own as well, by the way. The designer Dave has gone off to go and get basically the rest of the gear for the garden. So it's just me and myself and my digger. It's just how I like to work, and this is how you can really earn some money, because you can be a 2 or 3 man team here on your own with the right kit, which is what it's all about for me and what I try and show you guys. So just going to run through what the garden is, how I'm going to start. I need to pick myself a level yet and call that a sort of datum, and then everything else will work off of that 0. So just going to spend a bit of time with the laser now working that out, and then I can get in the digger, bench myself to 0, set myself on the laser, and basically go around and dig this garden from the cab, or that would be the idea. So I'll just show you what I've currently got, and I'll talk you through it. So I don't know how well this is going to show up on camera, but there's a load of spray marks on the floor. The yellow mark is like the line of a retaining wall. Blue, red, there's yellow and white crosses about as well. They're tree pits. Then you can see I've got the path here, kind of comes through, wiggles around, and exits over here. The blue circles are our seating areas. So got a dig as one here as well. And currently, as you can see, I got a bit of grass. That's all I've got. So I need to find a 0 as good or we're going to, you know, pick a 0 basically, and then level the plot or level everything that we're going to dig here off of that. Essentially, each side of the path is banks. There's banks here. There's banks here. That's what this yellow line is, like a line of a retaining wall. So this will all be a bank here, and the edge of the plot is actually out here. So got a flat bit of ground, quite similar. I know this is a show garden, and there's a few things that you do that you wouldn't do in a normal garden for these, but essentially this is how I look at any project. Could be a patio, could be a road, doesn't matter. You've got an existing bit of ground that has some levels, probably the wrong ones, and you need to turn it into what you want. So I'll explain how I go about doing it. Just need to pick my laser spot, so I'll just do that quickly. Try run around with the normal staff here. Quickly find where I'm going to call 0, what's the best average basically, so I'm not having to dig too much, and then I can jump in the digger and we can get going. Right, so I went around with staff and decided actually that this point here was the best. It's not the lowest and it's not the highest, it's probably the best of the mediums. I've got a low spot coming in over this end, and then like around here is all kind of high. So obviously this is a bit, you know, unrealistic, because if you were doing a road or a car park or even patio or something, you know, you'd have given levels. I'm having to kind of create a level here to form it all. And the key really for us is getting people in and out of the garden. There's no point in them having a massive step into or out of the garden as they come off the footpath sort of over at that end. So anyway, you'd have had a given level. But either way, this is going to be my datum. It could be DPC if you're working in a house, whatever it is. You know, a manhole if you're on a residential project or something, you know, with a given level. Anything that you can relate back to an actual level. And apologies, I'm operating one-handed here because obviously I'm holding the GoPro. So I'm going to stick my bucket down over here, and then I'm going to come back to Idig. Now, I need to use the laser catch here. Hopefully you can see this okay, it's quite sunny today. Laser catch, and then it'll ask me either I know the height between where the laser is here and my datum, which I don't. I mean, who does? Very rare you'd ever know that. So what I want is the little pencil one here, and I'm going to tell it that this is my 0, and I could have entered in, that could be 20 mil higher than 0 or whatever it needs to be, but that is 0, that's what I want, thank you very much. Now it wants me to find the laser. Now I do that by curling the bucket in, because my sensor is up on the top end of the dipper here, and my laser tripod isn't quite high enough. So what we have to do, doesn't matter what position the digger's in, all you've got to do is line it up so you get that green line there, and then you get the countdown on the bottom. There you go. I've got 181 centimeters between where my datum is and my laser. This looks about right, doesn't it? That's 6 foot in the air. So now I can track anywhere in the site. I can track right over there if I wanted to, as long as it can see the laser, and it'll know where 0 is. Now, that's great, but of course we're not digging to 0, are we? We need to dig to reduce dig levels. So this is my plan of the garden, and you can see the kind of elliptical shape that it's going to be, and the path that runs through. That's how I'm currently looking at it as it stands on the plot. And I've got levels here. So the path, essentially the main path needs to be 80 mil lower than 0. Easy enough. Around the edge of that needs to be 200 down, and that's because at these show gardens we cheat. Everything's planted in pots, and most pots are you know, 9 inches deep, whatever it is, 8 inches deep. So that's what the 200 mil trench around the outside of the path is for, so you can get some planting and it'll sort of sit down, you know, at the same level when it's just sat in its pot. Everything else here will be raised, otherwise the whole garden would be reduced that amount, because yeah, as I say, everything gets planted in pots. My tree pits are on another drawing, but they're dotted about throughout this, and these are these two paved areas that will be for seating, and I'll need to dig them down to 80 mil below as well. So I've got a plan. I've got some spray marks on the ground. I should be able to go over, and my theory is start maybe digging the path out. Got some areas I need to build up. I haven't got a dumper, so I'm going to have to kind of do a bit of haymaking about, and obviously not lose my marks. But that's my initial thinking. Got to start somewhere, haven't you? So start digging the path out a bit, and then we can go from there. And these other areas, and I'll show you what I do with Idig for that. So I've switched you up to the top of the cab, so you can actually see what's going on. Key thing here for me is not to lose any of these marks, because otherwise I'll have to get the Taram out, which is what everything's set out on. It's a nice cheap way of doing it. So I know I've got my low area over here, right, and that's going to have to be built up. So my theory is to start digging on the high bit, and from there I can work it out. Now I've now moved, right? I've moved bench. I've got the laser there, but this is not going to be at the same level that the screen says it's at, because the digger has moved elevations, right? So what I just need to do, it's got the little target, the laser in the target, which you might not be able to see, it was far left of the screen. Laser in the target, and that will just ask me to scan the laser again, which I can do really quickly. There you go, got it in the green bar. 3, 2, 1, there we go. It now knows what height the digger is at, and when I hold it here, it will tell me where 0 is, which currently is another 60 mil down, right? But I need to dig this 80 mil lower than 0. So I need to move down, which is the little black and white circle. I can move this down, this is an offset, and I want to move that 8 centimeters. 14 centimetres off grade, which is about right. And then we can start digging, and it's simple as that. Every time you move your digger, you just got to re-bench yourself. Haven't got a man on the laser, it's got the laser sat over there spinning away, digger, turn the tunes on, get digging. So that's my plan. I'll do a bit of digging and I'll come back to you.
Woe be unto him who opens one of the 7 gateways to hell, because through that gateway evil will invade the world.
So you can kind of see the path starting to take a bit of shape now, just roughing it out, and yeah, all I've got to do is keep checking myself benched against that every time I move on the sensor on the top of the dipper. So pretty quick. Got a bit of a complicated curve to do here, and this soil needs to shift really down into this low area, so just going to sort all of that out, and I'll do a bit of digging off camera, and then I'll come back to you when I've got something else set up to yeah, explain how I go about the next stage. Join me the next day, and now digging tree pits. And as you can see, trees are arriving and coming off as well, so the pressure's on. I think there's 30 trees going in this garden. Not a massive like size. It's a couple of fair sizes. You know, 1200 diameter root balls, 700 deep, but certainly nothing compared to what we were dealing with at Chelsea. There's just a lot of trees. I mean, we've got some of them in here. I marked them on the floor as I showed you before. Yeah, there's a lot going on. It looks like a minefield, the amount of holes I've dug here, really. So, got my laser set up in the corner again as before. And what I'm doing is I'm using that offset, because each hole is not just a different size in diameter, but it's also a different depth. So I have to remember what I did last and then work out where I need to offset from that. So all my, if I go now on an offset from my 0, well, I'm not on 0 anymore because my last hole I dug was obviously a tree pit, so I now need to offset off of that, if you know what I mean. So I've got a plan on the window here. This is where I keep all my drawings on the window. It's quite convenient. Digging a yellow pit, yellow mark on the ground. You can barely see it. Everything's getting a bit screwed up here, but that's where she is. And that's an 800 diameter, 500mm deep. The last hole I dug was a metre diameter, 600mm deep. So I only need to come up, offset up from my red hole, 100mm, hole, and I know as long as I can dig an 800 hole. Oh yeah, better make sure my bucket's right. That's the other thing, I'm swapping between the grader and the 450 digging bucket. 450 digging, that's the one. And we're off, we can dig. So that's basically something to always check. Make sure you got the right bucket on. It's quite a common, easy mistake to make. Luckily, the Idig never used to tell you what bucket you had, but now it actually says just underneath where where the numbers are here. It actually tells you what bucket you've got registered. It would be nice one day if the drawing changed, you know, so it went with, you know, you could pick 2 or 3 sort of different shapes or profiles, and you'd have an idea at a glance then whether you've got the grader on, or, you know, narrow trenching bucket, or an all digging bucket or whatever. So anyway, that would be something I'd like to see. It doesn't do that at the moment, but it does at least tell you what bucket you've got on the system at a glance, which is good. Someone's put this spade right in the way. We'll just knock that over. Convenience. So yeah, that's the thing. But of course, when I go to dig my next hole, which is going to be a blue hole, that is 650 diameter, 550 deep. So it's another 50 mil deeper than this one. And of course, I need to then offset myself down another 50 mil because I'm, as I say, well away from my zero now. Everything's basically relative to each tree pit. I've got 4 different colours to dig. They're all slightly different. So this is where you have to use your brain a little bit with Idig. You know, you do have to think, what am I digging? Where am I digging it? And what did I, you know, do last when you do that kind of thing? Yeah, I guess I could have made a note maybe of what when I set myself up in the morning and set it to 0, what height the laser was in reference to 0, and then work back from 0. You could do that, but I'm quite happy with remembering what I did last, basically what I did last and what my offset was. It doesn't actually tell you if it's offset this much from 0. That would be another nice feature. If it said to me now that I'm offset, well, I'm offset, what am I digging? Yeah, no, 500, so I'm actually offsetting 700 because whilst it's a 500 root ball, I'm digging it 200 mil lower than that because of the planting. So anyway, these are all things that I know in my head, aren't necessarily on the plan, but you know what I mean, if it said you've got an offset, you're running an offset at 700 off of that 0, that would also be a really nice feature, just to keep track of where you are sometimes, because you know, your datum is a datum, but you're never working to the actual datum, are you? You're always a measurement from that, and it would be nice if it, yeah, if it told you what you're at there. I'm just going to rip this hole out, and then, as I say, I've got a blue one to put in, and I can't dig. I've got a couple of red ones to do. I've got a red one here. Can't do that just yet because the forklift won't be able to get in. stick their pots in. Everything here gets planted in pots, doesn't come out of the pot. So there's quite a bit of, you have to have quite a bit of sort of low ground. We're going to sort of be banking up here, and this is going to become a bank the other side as well, of a retaining wall that's going in the other side. So just backfilling around some of the trees. Now we've straightened them up, get a little bit of soil in places. Dug this sort of channel here, you can see, which is all been levelled up, ready for retaining wall to go on. This is a tricky part of the job, because I mean I could shovel it all, to be honest, but you know, who wants to do that? It's 34 degrees today, absolutely red hot day, and I don't fancy too much shoveling. So the trick here is watching the top of the dipper on the trees, not breaking any trees, and tilt rotator really does help to save a lot of shoveling in these situations. So I have to sort of clean the machine up with excess grease and things, because you obviously don't want that scraping on the leaves. So I give it a good sort of wipe on any bits that are potentially going to touch against or rub against the trees, because they'll rub a certain amount before you damage them. You kind of get to know that after a while. But yeah, can't really damage trees because we're not going to get other ones. You have to be a bit careful. So a lot going on. Watch the top of the dipper, watch where your bucket is, and this tilt rotator does a real good job of getting in the awkward corners and saving a lot of shoveling, which is most welcome on a day like today. Don't need to use the Idig really for this. You can kind of see the level, and to be honest, sometimes I just sort of throw, if it gets really tight, I'll just throw a load in there with a bucket, and then I can get the shovel out round, you know, around the trunks or in the more delicate areas, because you know, you cannot touch these trees. It's just not an option. So a little bit of shoveling, but get most of it with the tilt tab, which is good. But the next stage, let's say when I dug that retaining wall, I used the same zero, you know, went off and I could dig it. I was actually sat on this bank and I dug it all with Idig. We did, the boys are using a laser over there just to get the final, sort of final touch-ups on the level, because that wall is basically a sheet of ply on the ground with 90-degree brackets they've made, and then they're fixing the board to the front of that, and obviously that wants to be pretty level. And as good as I am, or like to think I am, you're digging on the piss. You know, you're trying to dig at a thing. You've got trees around you. You can get it within 20 mil pretty easily. Getting it to within 10 mil is very, very difficult. I know Idig will work to that, but the realities are, you know, for time, speed, time, etc. It's easier to do it with a rake to get that very final tolerance. So the good news is that everything that I've put in here has worked out with what their laser has been saying as well, their handheld one. So I haven't been too far out in the grand scheme of things. So that's good. And yeah, probably over the weekend I'm up here. They're going to get the other retaining wall in and basically get it ready for me Monday to start getting all this dirt banked up, and that would be another great little job. I can show you how I'm going to use the kit to achieve that. Should be able to do most of it with the digger. You can kind of see the wall there starting to take shape. We've got these burnt boards on the front. It's quite a nice little feature. So plenty still to do. The digger is still useful, but obviously as you start closing it up, it becomes tighter and tighter, and eventually we'll be back down to the wheelbarrow and the shovel, but not quite yet. So yeah, just thought I'd update you how things are going and show you a bit of what we're up to. tape measure. You zero it by pressing on it until 0, and it'll actually give you a few measurements. It'll give you the height difference now between the cutting edge, the distance in, and also the grade even. So and the hypotenuse. It literally tells you everything you need. So if you ever had a slope and you weren't sure what it was, you could actually measure it. Let me get my measurement there. It's 2.5. So what I'm doing here is I know this bank needs to be 2.5 meters out from that wall, and I'm just marking on the ground using Idig where that is. So I just literally make a little scrape like that. Obviously I don't have the rotation sensor, so you have to be a bit smart. If I did, it would know exactly where the cutting edge is when I rotate the bucket as well. But what I do is I hold it pretty much where the retaining wall is, zero it again, bring it in. The measurement I'm looking for is 2.5 meters, which is there. So I make a note of where that is on the ground, which is like right there. Press it into the ground, spin the bucket round, and then I literally just hack that away like that. And I know that that is that's the mark I've got to bring that bank to, which I use to cut it in the grass. So yeah, it's quite a useful little system really. And again, you can move around and do that. So yeah, used it for setting out circles before, various things, radiuses, because if you slew, it'll tell you how far away you are from your slew radius and all sorts. So I can in theory measure that, turn around and measure something over there, and it would tell me because it knows what my centre of slew radius is. So it's quite clever and more useful than you think, and more accurate than you think as well. Certainly for things like this job, it's really good. For calculating what an existing slope is when you're trying to use your slope function, also really, really handy. So another good little feature to use, set within the machine. Saves you getting off and getting the calculator out. Now, yes, I could in theory, using that information, set Idig up to then work on its slope, and if I have the tilt sensors on, it would even tell me what angle the slope needs to be at this angle and things. But you know, this is where I find you can use Idig as a tool, and then obviously use your own brain to kind of fill the gaps in here. You know, don't really think you need to put the tilt sensors on and set all that up. You know, input your grade and tell it what angle you're sitting at, and all the things you need to do to run a grade, which is absolutely brilliant when you need to do it. But in this particular instance, I mean, you can see a grade, can't you? You know, we've got a man on the rake as well, tidying it up. Nice and easy, isn't it? You know where the bottom of the slope's got to be. It's not big enough. You know, for the motorway embankment, maybe it'd be worth it. You had a few hundred meters to do, but for what is probably under 20 meters of bank here, I think we can eye this in pretty well. It's only going to have rough meadow grass put on top of it anyway. So that's why I don't bother going any further. Often, you know, with Idig and any of this technology, any of these machines really, you can obviously go into too much detail sometimes for a job, and I don't think this one here requires that. So that's, in case you're wondering why I haven't then used that to set it up to use its slope function. I could do, but it's really not worth it in this particular instance. We can wing it by eye, the good old-fashioned way. The technology is there to help us, not to do everything for us. Well, that's the theory. Don't want the robots taken over, do we? Well, hopefully that's given you a bit of an idea of how I use Idig sort of day to day. There's many features I use on projects, and it really depends on the job you're doing, obviously, as to what you need to do and how much you use the Idig system. Because as I've said in that video, there are times where you can kind of use your brain to like fill in the gaps. You could set Idig up to give you that grade, but you know, a decent operator can kind of work it out. But it's still massively advantageous to me, and combined with the tilt rotator, there's not a lot you can't do, as I've sort of tried to show on that little mini show garden build there. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please keep subscribing. You can find me on Facebook at Guns Contractors. You can find me on Instagram at Ollie Guns, and obviously you found me on YouTube with any luck. So yeah, hopefully see you in the next video, whatever that may be. Don't know if I've got any new machines coming out really this summer, but I always do try when I hire a machine or something to give it a review for you guys. So hopefully get one soon. Thank you.